year to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code YEAR for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code YEAR for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Hey guys, Jeffrey O'Brien here. Did you know Harman Solar has gone super high tech? There's an amazing tool at harmansolar.com that'll give you an instant ballpark solar estimate using satellites from space. You just type in a little information, and within seconds, you'll have an idea of just how little money it takes to save big on that monthly electric bill. I did it, and within seconds, they measured my roof and calculated my savings. It's very impressive. Go to harmansolar.com and give it a try yourself. That's harmansolar.com.
Get ready for a late night showdown this Tuesday, January 14th at 9 p.m. when the Sun Devils take on the UCF Knights at Desert Financial Arena.
Here's Sannon for three. Yes! Josong Sannon from downtown.
Don't miss the high-flying action and help the Sun Devils protect the home floor. Get your ASU UCF tickets today by calling 480-727-0000 or go online to sundeviltickets.com.
Did you know that vitamins are your partners in health, not just inside, but outside too? These nutrients are key to our daily well-being. And for anyone who can get pregnant, folic acid is a must for preventing birth defects, helping you have a healthier pregnancy. The Arizona Department of Health Services is offering 3 months of free daily vitamins with folic acid. Power your health inside and out. Get your free vitamins at azdhs.gov/PowerMeA2C.
Sponsored by the Arizona Department of Health Services.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM. Wherever you go, take us along. Listen to our live stream on our free Fanatic app. Download it today.
And it is a Monday here on Beat the Book on 1580 The Fanatic. I'm Keon Rose. Alongside me is our betting expert in the building, Dylan Cohen. And we are broadcasting live from the Harman Solar Studios here at 1580 The Fanatic in sunny uptown Scottsdale. Today on the show, football. We got some basketball in there. We'll work that in there. But we got a lot of football to talk about because Super Wildcard Weekend is coming to an end tonight, with the Rams and the Vikings doing battle in Glendale, Arizona at State Farm Stadium, home of the Cardinals. But you'll be hearing the game here on 1580 The Fanatic if you so choose. You're on the text line, by the way, 888-368-1580. We want to know how your weekend was. Mine was a mixed bag, if you know who I am and you know who I root for. Last night, I almost had a heart attack watching the Commanders. We'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure. But how did your bets do? How did your teams do if they were playing in Wild Card Weekend?
Did you ride the long shot parlay? Text us. Let us know.
Please do, because that cashed, if you must know, which means that we've had the long shot parlay start to cash a little bit more lately. So we're getting rolling.
Yes, and there's going to be some updates to the program. We're going to get into that stuff today. And first and foremost, we are powered by Sport Trade. If you have not already, make sure you download Sport Trade on your smartphone. Use promo code 1580 to take advantage of their 10% cashback promotion on all the wagers that you place in your first week. And, we did do another Sport Trade win probability contest. We are actually going to be revealing the winner of that tomorrow once the wild card round of the playoffs is finished. So if you did send in a text and you submitted a guess on what the win probability was going to be for the Commanders in their game against the Buccaneers yesterday, you will need to tune in tomorrow, and that is when we will be announcing the winner of the $100 Amazon gift card and $50 in cash sent directly to your Sport Trade account. So that way you can place some extra wagers, try and grow that money, see if you can turn that into something more. Now that all that stuff is out of the way, let's get down to business here, because this radio show, and I used to say it a lot when we first started, it's designed to try and help make you some money. There are no other radio programs in Arizona that do what we do. And we operate a website where every single day we are posting 10 individual bets to make. They could be in a wide array of sports. In addition to those wagers, we also come up with a long shot parlay. Generally, the odds on the long shot parlay at a minimum, they're going to be 20 to 1. I try and keep them between 20 to 1 and under 300 to 1, because when you go over 300 to 1, that is when the win can be considered a taxable event. You don't want to get into all that stuff. But these bets, they are carefully crafted. I mean, we're not just tossing out anything just because we like it or we feel good about it. There is thought and dedication that goes into crafting the long shot parlay. And if you happen to follow it last Friday, you were rewarded. That was a wager that originally was set up to pay out a little bit over 100 to 1. One of the players on that long shot parlay, De'Aaron Fox, he was a late scratch, so that leg got voided. But the other 3 players in the NBA that we needed to score quite a bit of points on Friday night, they came through, they did their job. That wager ended up paying out a little bit over 28 to 1. I did post a picture of my winning ticket on there. I had $10 on there. It paid out about 300. I had posted that to my Instagram story over the weekend. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I do time to time post other bets to make on there, or just other good insights and knowledge to have when you're looking to place your bets. So you can follow me on Instagram. The tag is at Beat the Book Fanatic, all spelled out. And if you hit the link in the bio on that Instagram account, that will take you right to the Beat the Book website. So that way you can check out what the recommended bets are each day, and you will not miss out on that long shot parlay. There is another one that was posted for today. That long shot parlay is paying out in the neighborhood of 150 to 1. I would recommend building it on FanDuel. And in segment 3 of the show today, we're going to go through it, and I'm going to explain what the thought process is of why each of these legs is on here and why this long shot parlay could win. And that's going to be a regular part of the show going forward, because I don't want to see the fourth dimension miss out on any more of these things. I mean, we've hit 3 of these long shot parlays in the short history of Beat the Book. If you go to the Beat the Book site, I'm going to keep an ongoing counter. So this way you can know exactly how well we've been doing each day, each week. You'll see how many long shot parlays have hit throughout the year. So just trying to bring a little bit more transparency, a little bit more accountability into the Beat the Book process. And with all that being said, let's get down to some NFL playoffs here, Keon. We were treated to quite the football weekend. We had, 5 different games going on, and then we've of course got the final wild card game tonight between the Vikings and the Rams. We're going to get into some insight and analysis on that in segment 2. But I just wanted to kind of shout out each of these matchups, because what was really interesting to see with each of these games was where odds makers, drew the lines beforehand. Obviously, betting public comes in, they put their bets down, those lines move accordingly. But then you see how things actually finished. And then when you look back, it's kind of interesting to go, oh, wow, these odds makers have absolutely no idea. They don't know any better about this stuff than you or me or anyone else placing bets on this.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, no, right? Because like we saw it at the beginning of this season, when you looked at week 1, 2, 3, 4 of the NFL season, like there was an adjustment period for the betting markets, because these teams are coming back from an off season. You've added players, you've lost players, you've fired coaches, you've hired general managers, and like it's just everything is now different. And the playoffs function so different from an actual regular season that it's kind of like starting over again, I think, for a lot of these sports books, where like how some of these matchups would have worked in the regular season, they're not going to work the same way in the playoffs.
And that is pretty much what we saw in just about every single game that went down over the weekend, starting off with the LA Chargers and the Houston Texans game that took place on Saturday. Our pick on this game was for the Chargers money line. They were a 2.5-point favorite just before kickoff. And final result, the Houston Texans got a big win. They won 32-12. So here you have the team that was the expected underdog from odds makers, 2.5-point underdog, winning by 20 points. So pretty big discrepancy there on, where that line is drawn. Certainly was an opportunity, perhaps if you're a big Houston Texans fan, or, if you just happen to know that Justin Herbert was about to have not a very good game.
Potentially the worst game of his professional career, even.
There was an opportunity to be had on, taking Houston on like an alternate spread, laddering that. Definitely some big opportunity there. If you happen to do that, you want to shout out your win, text us 888-368-1580. But, the one thing that sticks out to me in this game, Keon, Justin Herbert, 4 interceptions. And I'm pretty sure throughout the entire regular season, he only had 3. So, I mean, to exceed that in a single game, and it's not all completely on him. And we were talking a little bit about this before the show. Ladd McConkey had almost 200 receiving yards. Did not expect that out of him, but then you kind of look at what else Justin Herbert has to work with, and that's kind of where things get a little bare.
It's Ladd McConkey and a bunch of dudes. Like, it's just not anybody else on that team who can really separate. And if you can't separate in the NFL as a wide receiver, you're kind of no good to anybody unless you're a good contested catch guy, which they also don't have on that roster. McConkey can separate. Nobody else really can. And so, like, Justin Herbert is kind of forcing the football into windows because what else does he have? Now, I thought, and the reason why I was really big on the Chargers going into that game, that Greg Roman, the guy known for running his quarterbacks almost into the ground sometimes, would be the guy who would say, Justin Herbert, I know you're not a big runner, but he's fast enough. And I think you could have had enough designed runs to try and create some rushing to get that pass rush off of Justin Herbert a little bit. Like, don't let them just pin their ears back and tee off on your quarterback. And it never happened. They never had any designed runs. Justin Herbert himself never really took off on any scrambles. And Houston just kept essentially going right after him, and knowing that they didn't have to worry about the running game at all. They didn't have to worry about, Gus Edwards or anybody. Like, they were just able to tee off on Justin Herbert. And that happened with no counter in a way that I just didn't anticipate from a Jim Harbaugh coach team.
I think the Chargers O-line was pretty unimpressive. I mean, it's either that or you've got this front line on the Houston Texans defense that, I mean, they were playing out of their minds. Justin Herbert was having to deal with really insane pressure. And we saw like multiple instances of like consecutive plays where he's either getting sacked or it's just a tackle for a loss. And like, you can't suffer those like back to back when you're already down, you're trying to drive down the field. It was like the Chargers would take 1 step forward and then 2 steps back, and then Herbert throws a pick, and then the other side's getting the ball, and the whole thing just kind of got away from them. So, was unfortunate to lose that one, but the Texans are going to be advancing to face the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think that is more than likely where their postseason is going to end. But we will get more into that matchup later on this week. That one's going to be taking place this weekend. The next game, Baltimore Ravens defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers 28-14. Derrick Henry goes off 186 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. The Ravens were 8.5-point favorites before kickoff. They end up winning the game by 14. Keon, what were your takeaways on this one?
I think my big takeaway on this one is that this might be one of the most single disrespectful games that I've ever seen in the playoffs, where the Ravens were like, I think that there was like a thought that the Ravens without Zay Flowers might try to force the ball to other targets. They just ran the ball right at the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know what your defense is. We know how good they are. Yeah, you got TJ Watt. We don't care. We're just going to run the ball right at you. And the Steelers really didn't seem prepared for that at all. And the Ravens had these drives that I think they had like one 14-play drive that lasted most of the third quarter or something like that. Like, it was they just kept the football, and they churned out yards over and over and over again. And they didn't mind running for 4, 5, 3. And it just seemed tedious, but it kept the ball out of the Steelers' hands. It kept the ball away from Russell Wilson, and it ate up the clock. And the Ravens were more than happy to beat the Steelers that way. And Derrick Henry obviously had himself a feast. Lamar Jackson on the ground as well. Like, Lamar didn't really have to throw the football very much. It just didn't seem to be a factor. It didn't seem to be anything that was that important to them. They knew that they could beat the Steelers on the ground. That was the game plan. They played power football, and you usually don't see that at the NFL level anymore. The Ravens feel like they can do that to just about anybody.
Well, yeah, and to your point with Lamar Jackson, I mean, he finished with only 175 passing yards, but still 2 passing touchdowns. Then you get the extra 2 rushing touchdowns from Derrick Henry. This might be the absolute most efficient offense that's left right now in the NFL playoffs. So the Ravens are going to be advancing to face the Buffalo Bills, and that is the next game we're going to cover here. The Bills took on the Denver Broncos at home. They were a 7.5-point favorite before kickoff. They ended up winning the game 31-7, a 24-point blowout. Absolute potential here for a Bills alternate spread bet, laddering that up. I'm sure there were some very, loyal, faithful Buffalo fans, maybe out of Buffalo, New York, that, just had all the confidence in their team and were riding that one up. The only thing that kind of made me a little nervous against doing that was just that, this Broncos defense is just nothing to scoff at. And, to bet on them really just getting beat down like this, I wasn't willing to do it, but this is kind of one of those ones where in hindsight, I'm like, why didn't I do that?
Yeah, I feel like I should have probably bet this one because I felt really good about this matchup. I thought it for the Broncos, and I said this Friday, this is like the worst possible team they could have seen for their defense. It's a great defense, but sometimes football's about matchups. And when you look at this particular matchup, a lot of what the Broncos do is put Patrick Surtain on your best receiver, and then that's usually enough to beat most teams in this league. But with the Bills, they have enough options and enough big receivers that when you start to go down the list, it's like, okay, so Patrick Surtain's going to be on like Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper really didn't do a whole lot in that game. But then, Riley Moss was just getting destroyed, and it was a combination of Shakir and Coleman just again and again. And he really didn't have any answers for it. And I didn't expect him to. Like, he's not a big corner. So when you start putting these big body receivers against him, like we saw T. Higgins and the Bengals just run through that defense, not because it's not a good defense, but because T. Higgins being the second receiver, here's another guy. He's big, he's physical, he boxes you out like a center in basketball. Like, there's just a lot of different things that provide a challenge for that Broncos defense. And then once you couldn't stop that, you also couldn't stop Josh Allen from running the ball himself. And then James Cook and the way that Joe Brady was able to design a lot of those screen passes out of the backfield really put pressure on this Broncos defense in a way that they're not built to stop.
And to that point, Josh Allen, 272 passing yards, 20 completions out of 26 attempts, 2 passing touchdowns. And then James Cook, to go alongside that, 120 rushing yards with a rushing touchdown. And then again here, Curtis Samuel ends up being your guy. 3 receptions, 68 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. It doesn't have to be Amari Cooper. And the name that was also kind of coming to mind for me too is Dawson Knox. Like in any given game, Josh Allen just has this really strong chemistry with Dawson Knox to where, if your receivers are being shut out, he can just go to his tight ends. Like, he has a plethora of weapons to work with on that offense. And I also said this to you before the show, and again, we're going to get more into this later on this week. Oh my God, this Buffalo Bills and Baltimore Ravens game is just going to be a treat. If you like good football games, gritty, hard-fought games that should be coming down to like the final score, I have to imagine that is how a Bills and Ravens showdown is going to go. Yes, they did play early on in the year. I know the Bills suffered a bad loss to the Ravens in Baltimore. This one's going to be in Buffalo. I think that really changes the dynamic quite a bit for this Bills team. They really do benefit from being in their home stadium.
And also remember, I don't believe at that time the Bills had Amari Cooper. And not having a true number 1 wide receiver in the NFL is a real problem. It's like there are teams that can find ways around it. The Packers kind of did for most of the year, but even that kind of caught up to them in the playoff game in a way I didn't expect. But having a true number 1 has a ton of value. And the Bills didn't have it with the last time they played the Ravens. They have Amari Cooper, which means that the guys that they were kind of asking to fill that number 1 role, they don't have to do that anymore. They can kind of play more in their position. And we've seen Shakir have better numbers when Cooper showed up. We've seen Keon Coleman have better numbers when Cooper showed up. So I expect this to be a much closer game too.
So I'm absolutely looking forward to that one. Let's jump over to the NFC here. We had the number 2 Philadelphia Eagles taking on number 7 Green Bay Packers. And that one took place in Philadelphia. And this was a game that the Eagles were able to take an early lead and they really held it for most of the time. But, this game was I mean, it was still contentious, throughout. It wasn't one where, the Eagles like fully ran away from it, even though Green Bay kind of kept turning over the ball and it seemed like they were about to do it. And the beat the book bet on this one was for the Packers to cover an alternate spread of +7.5. So for them to lose by 12, that was frustrating.
Yeah. Especially since the opportunities were there. And like that last play, the game could have helped a lot. That was absolutely a pass interference, and they just didn't call it. And I was just for betting purposes. I was like, hey, let's let this thing cover. Okay, let's just go ahead and let him have that. No, thank you. The NFL was not interested, and so I felt personally screwed a little bit.
You and me both. Yeah, no, that was disappointing. But now we have the Eagles advancing, and they are going to be taking on the winner of tonight's game between the Vikings and the Rams. So we will have kind of more analysis on that future matchup once we know who they're actually playing. But let's get to the final one here, because the legend of Jayden Daniels continues
somehow. And by the way, boy, my headphone thing is acting up on me here. But just jump to the text line, because I got a few accolades from the fourth dimension here on the text line. Got Devil Hawk saying, Keon, congrats to your Washington Commanders for winning last night. Such an exciting ending. Nice to see ASU alumni Zane Gonzalez kick the game-winning field goal. He's a good dude. Do you think the Commanders shock the world next week against the Lions? I, for one, do. I believe the Lions will choke at some point in these playoffs in classic Lions fashion. I personally don't. If you think they're going to choke, maybe it'll happen. I don't know that the Commanders are the team to do it, just because that Lions offense is a buzzsaw. It terrifies me personally. Let's see here. Bullseye, I'm going to hold off on that text there because he's talking about going to the Rams-Vikings game tonight. We'll get to that here in a second. Weso Grande says, congrats, Keon. So Jayden Daniels is what a Heisman Trophy winning rookie quarterback can look like, and he actually won the playoff game. Makes me want to move on from Kyler even more now. So there that is. And then fifth letter has another Cardinal Stadium Vikings Rams text, so I'll hold on to that one as well. Baker's Cocky Hens wants to know how much he lost by this week, and we're going to actually put that out once the wild card round is officially wrapped up. We're going to put out the winner of the contest tomorrow, actually. So we don't know how much you lost by, or if you lost at all. Baker's Cocky Hens will have to come back tomorrow. And then Sir Drives a Lot says, doink to the divisional round. Was a great call. It really was. Scared the bleep out of me. I have many swear words, but Dylan set it up.
So, coming into this one, Commanders were the underdog. They were 3.5-point underdogs. And ironically, this one ended up really being, closest to, like where the line was set, and then, how the game actually played out. This is the one that was really the closest to reality. So Commanders end up winning the game 23-20. Zane Gonzalez, as was just mentioned, he doinks in the game-winning field goal. But Jayden Daniels, man, I mean, 268 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. And again, I've said this all year long. Like, I don't believe I'm watching a rookie quarterback when I watch this guy. It never feels like it. Just decision-making, discipline, poise. The guy has all the confidence in the world. And here he is going up against, Baker Mayfield, who is an accomplished quarterback in his own right.
Another Heisman Trophy winner himself. Baker was having a great year and had some great plays in that game too.
Well, and Cade Otton, came back for that game. And I'll be completely honest. Like I was on Commanders thinking that Cade Otton was not playing and Baker just was going to have even less guys to be working with. So then when they announced he was playing, and I saw that team in front, I was like, oh crap, he might be able to do it. Cade Otton was playing with one knee. Like,
yeah, he was not 100%.
Absolutely not.
Valiant effort, but just not the same dude.
So then you've got Terry McLaurin, who, like, everyone sleeps on Terry McLaurin. Like, this guy, he can flip a switch and be like top 5 wide receiver in the league, like whenever he wants to. I mean, now he's finally got a quarterback that can like really sling it to him. And Jayden's just going to get better and better and better at this. The more he practices, the more reps he gets, the more experience he gets. So I'm really excited to see, what Washington can ultimately accomplish. And actually, there is a line already out right now for Commanders and Lions. It's currently set at 8.5. It feels a little too big to me.
It feels a little big, especially for a team that can only apparently win in fourth quarters and shootouts. 4. This is their 4th game of they are behind in the fourth quarter, but by the end of the game, they've won the game somehow.
And I mean, they're pulling off these comebacks against some of the best in the league. We saw what they did to the Eagles. We saw what was that? Was that against the Cowboys at home?
They did, which that was Mariota. That wasn't even Jaden. Mariota went and got it done against the Cowboys defense. That really wanted to be a little bit of a spoiler. I know that the Saints aren't very good, but they had that last second defensive stand against the Saints. They had the Falcons, in that overtime where Jaden basically gets the ball and that's the ball game. Like they just seem to be in these fourth quarters and they just get it done late. They had, obviously the heroics against the Bears earlier in the season, against the Bengals. They went back and forth. They almost got the Ravens. It just seemed like every time they get into these points late in games, like you're not really quite sure that you can count them out of anything.
And I think this Lions secondary and their ability to defend the pass right now, it's still questionable. I know that they had a good performance last week against the Vikings, but they had a pretty bad one before that against the 49ers, and they're still dealing with a bunch of injuries here.
And by the way, like you have that performance against the Vikings, that's huge. That's not nothing. Darnold doesn't run like Jaden though. And like if you get Darnold and he can't throw the football effectively, that's kind of it for him. It's not working in the air for Jaden. Like you can ask the Buccaneers all about it. Apparently, guy's elusive to catch on the ground. He left Shaq Barrett holding a towel. Trying to Shaq Barrett tried to bring him down on that was it fourth down or a third, maybe third and one. And Daniels was able to get away from him. It's just the guy's just elusive in ways that a lot of other quarterbacks aren't. It's like kind of the best that you can ask for of a pocket passer with the running instincts of Lamar Jackson. It's weird. It's crazy to watch. I still don't know how to feel about it, but I'll take it. I'm not going to complain. Not today.
I'm really curious if your Commanders to win the Super Bowl bet is offering a cash out right now. I just would like to see what that is, and then to compare that to what it could be if they somehow win that game against the Lions, because that's really where you're going to see a huge jump in that.
During the commercial break, I'll log it because I got to see, because I totally didn't see. Because I don't know what to feel about this at all. It's like $75 on a 50-cent bet.
I'm curious. We gotta look into that and then report back here.
All right, so we're gonna talk football tonight. Obviously, we've got the Rams and the Vikings at State Farm Stadium. We've got a couple of texts on the text line about it. We'll get to those, and then we'll break the game down for you as best we can. We'll talk a little bit of Suns to wrap up the show as well. So stick around. We'll be right back on Beat the Book on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm, A-rated by the Better Business Bureau. Their award-winning team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to end your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other IRS actions. Make sure you're getting the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima today for a free confidential consultation.
Call 800-410-6744. 800-410-6744. 800-410-6744.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T.
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text LION to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Text absolutely free. Text LION to 42424. That's Lion to 42424.
Sports bettors, we've all been there. You have a live bet lined up, you check the odds one more time, place the bet only to see the bet delayed by the spinny wheel, line move, and your bet rejected. My name's Alex Kane, and I'm the founder and CEO of SportTrade, Arizona's newest sports betting app. At the core of the SportTrade offering is our probability-based odds. In other words, the Cardinals may be offered at 55% odds to win, a lot simpler than minus 125. Place your bet at 55% odds, and as your win probability changes, so does the value of your bet, giving you the ability to cash out with total control. And the best part, no spinny wheels. Live bets on SportTrade are instantly accepted. Download SportTrade on your iPhone today and use code 1580 to earn 10% cash back on every bet in your first week. Terms apply.
SportTrade is regulated by the Arizona Department of Gaming. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP.
Download our free sports app and stay up with all the latest sports news, scores, highlights, and more.
Or
stream us live anywhere
at 1580thefanatic.com.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic, Arizona's home for sports.
So we'll get to Rams and Vikings here in a moment. On the text line, we got a couple of, one person at least going to the game. Fifth letter says, this might be off topic, fellas, but I figured maybe one of you might know, is State Farm Stadium card only? And, I had to do a little Googling, but it does appear that at least on the State Farm website, the State Farm Stadium website anyway, they
I
are.
was going to say, I think it is.
They are a cashless venue.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to go ahead and make sure you have your card or whatever digital way you want to handle that taken care of. And then Bullseye says, I'm going to Rams and Vikings tonight. Not a fan of either team, just going since it's a playoff game. Tickets were cheap and the weather is beautiful. Going to wear my Kurt Warner Arizona Cardinals jersey. So there you go. Like the one time I think it's actually acceptable to wear a third team to a game like that is, hey, it's in our city. I don't have a Rams jersey. I don't have a Vikings jersey. Why would I have either of those things? I'm just going to the game.
It's going to be kind of interesting optics if it's like, there's clearly like some Rams fans here. There's clearly some Vikings fans here, but they're all outnumbered by the Cardinals fans.
That'd be pretty fun. But those are the texts for that there tonight.
So I just wanted to touch base real quickly on the Phoenix Suns. We're going to get back to football here in a second, but this has been a big theme that we had been touching base on over the course of last week. Suns were in a little bit of a downward spiral. We had that really bad loss at Charlotte last week. And then now, we've come back home. We've strung together 3 straight wins. So, want to give Suns, a little kudos for that. However, those 3 wins were games that we had absolutely no business losing. This is this stretch of teams that we're facing right now that have like a 500 record or worse. So glad that we are winning the games that we're supposed to be winning. And on Saturday, we faced the Utah Jazz at home. We were able to win that one. And that was one where, we got the lead early. We never really gave it up. Probably one of the more comfortable wins that we've had in a while. But then we took on the Hornets again yesterday. And maybe it's just something where the Hornets are just kind of like a bad matchup for the Suns. Sometimes that happens in basketball. And, even though one team has a lot of talent compared to the other one, there's just something about the way that these two teams match up that kind of favors that team that's, expected to not win. So, with that being said, the Hornets were defeating the Suns for much of the game yesterday. The Suns went into the fourth quarter down 5 points, and this was one that really came down to like the final 5 minutes of the game. But Suns were able to pull it out. Devin Booker gets another 30-point game. So, maybe the Suns just kind of need to go back to this formula of let Devin Booker be the leading scorer, let Kevin Durant be that 1B, right next to Devin, but make sure Devin kind of has that lead, and then let everyone else kind of follow suit behind them. And maybe that's kind of the formula that we need to start trying to more consistently follow to string together more wins and build our confidence back. To me, and this is probably the best way that I think I can phrase this, from the Beat the Book show's perspective, the Suns are still very much on probation right now.
We don't trust them.
No, not at all.
Not yet.
Not at all. But, there could be something positive brewing there. Now, I do also just want to say Yusuf Nurkic did not play again against the Jazz, and then he was a scratch against the Hornets because I guess he's sick. But there's also very strong rumors going around. Suns have been shopping him. The Suns have been in talks with the Charlotte Hornets. There is a rumor that we could be looking to package together Nurk and a second-round pick to try and get the Hornets backup big man Nick Richards. And I actually would very much support that trade. I think Nick Richards has a lot more upside than Nurkic right now. He's young. He can still get a lot better, but he's fresher legs, more athletic, can absolutely run the floor.
Which is absolutely hungrier too. Like he just wants it a little bit more, where I feel like Nurkic is like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do in this offense. So he just doesn't try as hard. Like that's my guess with Nurkic. I don't know.
The body language, either way, it's very discouraging. And I just can't help but notice how the Suns have improved ever since we made a decision to not let him see the court anymore. So good for the Suns to get those wins. Their next game is this coming Tuesday in Atlanta. And the Suns did just defeat the Hawks this past week. But this is another game where, this is not going to be easy. And especially if the Hawks have Jalen Johnson playing. He did not play when they were just in Phoenix. That could be the difference maker for Atlanta to ultimately beat us. We're going to have more to say on that tomorrow when that game comes around. And do not forget about this whole Jimmy Butler thing going on. That is still very much in play.
It's still very much in play, and we're not going to get too much into it today because we just don't have time. But Jimmy Butler on social media, stoking the flames. He is going to terrorize the Heat into trading him away from that place. Because if they don't, and you've said this many times, but at the trade deadline, if they are still left holding Jimmy Butler, he is going to make playing basketball with him on the roster perhaps the single worst experience that any team has ever had.
He will do enough to force Pat Riley's hand to basically get down to a place where Pat's going to say, Jimmy, we're just going to pay you to be away from the team. We don't even want you here. That's where I see that going. But I actually really still think that the Heat they're playing possum right now. There's no way that they're just going to let him walk for nothing. They're going to get assets out of it. This is going to come down to the wire. It's going to come down to the literal trade deadline. I believe that's February 9th, or it's February 6th. I'd have to look that up. I know it's one of those two dates. So we will be keeping our eye on that. And let's get back to some football here.
Yeah, so the perfect segue. Let's go ahead and shift gears by going to the text line, because we have a couple of Suns texts, and then we have some football stuff there. But Moldy Tuna Fish on the text line says that Suns game yesterday nearly gave me a cardiac event. I couldn't believe that they were losing most of that game to Charlotte. They pulled out the W, which is nice, but man, they need to get their stuff together. So look, man, I totally understand. Sir Drives a Lot says any younger serviceable center will do.
Absolutely agreed.
Sir Drives a Lot. Yeah, exactly where we are when it comes to Nurkic. Kind of just want him off the roster. Latina Leprechaun says, I was literally jumping up and down, Keon, when Zane Gonzalez kicked that game-winning field goal for Washington. Jaden Daniels, too. So much talent. It does me proud to see how my fellow Sun Devils are having success in the NFL. Any Wildcats having success in the NFL? Bueller? So yeah, we get a nice little shot at you, Arizona. And then Baker's Cocky Hen says, I hit the Lad McConkey touchdown for King of End Zone for 68 free bet.
Yeah. I know
which I had for Samuel for the 13K free bet. Wow. So there you go.
So that's a contest where you're betting on who gets the longest touchdown.
Yeah.
So Lad McConkey connected with Herbert. It was a 90-yard touchdown pass for 86 yards or something like that. I know exactly what that was.
Yeah.
Great call there. But that was something that required a little bit of luck.
Bit of luck, but hey, look, we always root for a bet to hit, and boy, did that ever. So congratulations to you. And now that we've got the text line cleaned up, let's go ahead and talk about tonight's game.
So we've got the Rams squaring off against the Vikings here. You take a look at the line on this one on FanDuel, and it's currently in favor of the Vikings. The Vikings are a 2.5-point favorite. And, there's a bit of controversy in this matchup in that, there are devastating fires going on in Los Angeles right now, and they're so bad. literally moved the location of the game, which then forced the LA Rams to have to kind of shift from whatever their routine or their regiment was supposed to be going into this. They had to get on planes, come over to Arizona, spend time in a place that they're not used to, practice in a place that they're not used to, and go play a game in a place that they're not as used to. I mean, this is supposed to be a home field advantage for them. And unfortunately, to an extent, that's been stripped away from them. So my biggest analysis coming into this game, unfortunately, it's not directly tied to, how these teams have immediately played against each other, how they fared against each other in their last matchup. I mean, those are things that we'll still consider here, but I think, and this is really going to be, my thing, I'm either going to kind of die on this sword or I'm going to look really right tomorrow. Do not discredit how distracting the fires have been for the Rams. These guys all have social lives outside of their work. They have friends that are, impacted by this stuff. They have family that's impacted by this stuff. Some of the things that we've seen publicized at the very least, and this isn't directly correlated to the fires, but Matthew Stafford, his entire family is like sick with the flu, and it got so bad that they all like had to go to the hospital. But he's like been spending time away from them, because they don't want to get him sick. And I know these are like little things, and it's really hard to kind of point to them and then say, oh, that means he's going to have a bad game. But I just think when you're going up against a Minnesota Vikings team that has played as well as they have played all season long, coming off the loss that they're coming off of against the Lions, I mean, that was almost an opportunity for them to kind of get a reset, to, kind of humble themselves, and really not take for granted this opportunity that they have to try and make a run through the postseason. Their routine this week has not been disrupted whatsoever. And I think that is something that is going to play out on the field. And it's interesting to kind of look back at the LA Chargers game versus the Texans. The Chargers came out extremely flat. And to our knowledge, the Chargers didn't immediately get out of LA when the fires started. They stuck around. They tried to practice through it. Their practice facility is outdoors. They're practicing outdoors with it. They have to limit their exposure to the outdoors because there's literally ash falling from the sky, and then we saw how all of this kind of disrupted their rhythm. They fly to Houston. They try to make the best game out of it, and it ends up leading to Justin Herbert having his worst game ever. I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen to Matthew Stafford and the Rams right now, but I think a lot of people are going to bet this game as if these fires aren't happening. And then you're going to be kind of shocked at a Rams team that comes out flat. And then after the game, they're all going to be talking about how the fires have just kind of disrupted their week. And it's been this crazy distraction.
Yeah. And so you got to keep that in mind. Now, that being said, you also have to look at the other side of this, which sometimes when athletes are going through rough times in their life, the game allows them the opportunity to lock in on something and not focus on all the crap that's happening, in real life. And when it comes to losing your home potentially or having your friends in danger and things like that, you can just focus on the game and then you can get back to life later. But the game just gives you that space away from all of that. So sometimes we've seen stuff like that. Athletes have certain tragedies. And then all of a sudden it's you think that would be the thing that holds them back. It winds up being the thing that actually motivates them more. So you just
well, and that's where I say, look, I might die on this sword. They might overwhelmingly win, and then they're in the post-game press conference, they're just going to say, oh, well, we were doing it for LA. We're trying to bring the city hope. It could play out like that. Absolutely. That's just not the way that I'm going to bet it personally. But if you check out the Beat the Book website, our pick for the game, and we went through this last week too, Vikings money line to win. Now within the Vikings, who's going to do really well. I just can't picture the Vikings winning this game without Justin Jefferson doing a lot to help them achieve that. In the one game that the Vikings and the Rams played earlier this season, Jefferson had over 110 receiving yards in that matchup. His line for receiving yards in this game, the last time I looked at it at least, was 90.5. I would definitely look for Justin Jefferson to rise to the occasion in the big playoff game. I like him for an anytime touchdown. I went a little conservative on his receiving yards. I took it to an alternate receiving yards prop to 80 or more. But honestly, if you want to take him at his line for the over, it's still at 90.5. You could look to play that up to 100 plus. That is the kind of performance that I think we're going to be seeing out of him. Keon, is there anyone in particular, Vikings or Rams, that you think might potentially go off in this game?
Yeah, I mean, you've got so many options in this game. Because I do think that Kupp and Nacua are going to be
obviously the main focus of the Rams offense. But don't overlook Kyron Williams and what he's able to do as well. And if you've got a pocket quarterback in Matthew Stafford, keeping the pass rush off of him is huge. You do that by running the football. And I think Sean McVay knows that, and he can run a balanced offense. I think that Kyron Williams is actually going to be much more involved than a lot of people realize. And then you can also kind of like flip it around on the Vikings side. I genuinely think that when you look at what Justin Jefferson had going on with against the Detroit, he just kind of seemed to not really get into his rhythm. Darnold couldn't find him. I think that Kevin O'Connell tries to establish that early and like really get that going early. So, I mean, it may not be big plays downfield, but it's going to be a lot of trying to get the ball into Justin Jefferson's hands, jet sweeps, slant passes, bubble screens. Just try and get the ball into the hands of your playmaker, get him going early so that you can rely on him later in the game. I think this is going to be a huge Justin Jefferson game.
One thing that I was kind of thinking about before too, and I'm curious to get your opinion on this. This is technically a Cam Akers revenge game. Is there perhaps a bigger performance out of him that we might be able to see? His last 2 games, 65 rushing yards, 18 rushing yards. His line in this game is 21.5. Where are you falling on that 21.5 side of the fence? You think he can go over?
Boy, I'm trying to see if I can grab some of the numbers there, but I
3 out of his last 5 games, he's rushed for more than 22 rushing yards.
Yeah, I think he can. So like it's not impossible. And it does seem like their offense is just kind of built to make that kind of happen.
Well, and the Vikings take an early lead, and then it's something where it's, turns to a heavier run game to just try and kind of drain the clock. That's where you're going to see Akers come in and, get more rushing attempts. That could be another player prop to keep an eye on there too. So definitely just wanted to shout that out. I think we gotta go to a quick commercial break here.
Yeah, we do. We are way behind, but yeah, no, this is, this game is going to be an interesting game. Like you said, we had so many games that should have been much better. We only got really one game that was as good as we thought it was going to be. I think this might be the actual second. So we will wrap this up with some of the picks of the day coming up on Beat the Book on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
Want to play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with Dayquil VapoCool. It's Dayquil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is Dayquil VapoCool.
Dayquil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hi, guys. Jeffrey O'Brien here. Have you ever gone to HarmonSolar.com? Well, you really need to, because everything you ever wanted to know about how solar power can save you big on your monthly electric bill is right there. It's online. Through your phone or through your computer, you can learn about tax credits, the equipment they use, look at how they do things for businesses as well as homeowners, see testimonials from happy customers, and I hear they got a pretty good podcast too. Check it out. Go to HarmonSolar.com. That's HarmonSolar.com.
I've just been feeling so sluggish lately. You should try the Metamucil 2-week challenge. The Metamucil 2-week challenge? Yeah, Metamucil 4-in-1 fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Start your daily routine now, and in 2 weeks, you could be feeling great. Well, it's been 2 weeks. How you feeling? Lighter and feeling great.
If you want to feel lighter by promoting digestive health, sign up to take the 2-week challenge at Metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Get ready for a late night showdown this Tuesday, January 14th at 9 p.m. when the Sun Devils take on the UCF Knights at Desert Financial Arena.
Here's Sannon for 3. Yes! Josong Sannon from downtown.
Don't miss the high-flying action and help the Sun Devils protect the home floor. Get your ASU UCF tickets today by calling 480-727-0000 or go online to sundeviltickets.com.
Mom, where are my keys?
Why do I have to take out the garbage?
I'm too sick to go to school.
Quit hogging the bathroom!
If you're having a hard time living with all the noise, it's even harder to live without it. Fake pills with fentanyl are the #1 killer of youth in Arizona. Learn how to talk to your kids at talknowaz.com. This message is sponsored by the Substance Abuse Coalition Leaders of Arizona.
The GCU men's basketball squad is coming off their winningest season in 35 years, their third trip to the NCAA tournament in 4 years, and their first ever NCAA tournament victory. Returning 4 of their 5 starters in Ray Harrison, Colin Moore, Duke Brennan, and reigning WAC Player of the Year Tyon Grant Foster, the Lopes look to defend their WAC titles and make a run to the Sweet 16. With a non-conference slate including Stanford, Georgia, and crosstown rival Arizona State, you won't want to miss a moment of the action. So join me, Michael Potter, and Lopes insider Paul Coro all season long right here on the home of the Lopes, 1580 The Fanatic. Lopes up.
1580 The Fanatic.
And at 1580thefanatic.com.
Your home for sports.
All right, we've got a full text line, so we're going to try and get through that before we get to the long shot parlay of the day. Swazman says, good weekend of betting for me, Ohio State, and all of the NFL favorites. I did win a 4-leg parlay. Also, Houston Texans, Joe Mixon, and over on Nick Collins plus 1,100. So good for you, man.
Nice bet.
Yeah. Then the fifth letter sending in the bet that he just locked in today. He's got the LA Rams on the money line. Kyren Williams, anytime touchdown score. TJ Hawkinson, 40-plus yards and alternate receiving yards. And Kyren, 60-plus yards. Kyren Williams, 60-plus rushing yards, alternate rushing spread there. So, good luck to you.
Luck.
That I think that's a good parlay, like solid. Golden Domer says, definitely think so. Cam Akers, primary running back, was limping and injured last game versus Detroit too. So Cam Akers could potentially have a greater workload there if that is actually something that's still true. Sir Drives a Lot says a couple of Vikings fans in the family just showed up at the house. They are excited. So, well, they ought to be.
Gonna be a fun night.
Going to be an absolutely fun night. And then the magnificent Mr. Mormon, who I don't think has texted this show before, says, Keon and Dylan love the show. While I may not be a gambler myself, I do enjoy listening about it and hearing your in-depth examination and breakdown of the games involved, which is the fun part for me because I am becoming a gambler, a bigger gambler, or I should say a better gambler, because I was losing a lot of bets before this show. And learning a lot from Dylan, and Dylan's the guy that really knows how this stuff works, and glad you're getting something out of it.
And that's kind of how things started for me and anyone that, starts to kind of figure things out within sports betting. I mean, you lose enough times and then you start to kind of learn from the losses and
trial and error that costs you a lot.
Exactly.
So hopefully we can get you past that part faster.
Now let's transition over to the long shot parlay of the day. I want to start kind of doing this more consistently in the third segment of each show. I'm going to go through what it is and why I believe it's going to win. So the long shot parlay for today, it has 4 legs, and we are looking for RJ Barrett on the Toronto Raptors to score 25 or more points against the Warriors. We need Jalen Brunson on the New York Knicks to score 30 or more points. And then we need Anthony Edwards on the Minnesota Timberwolves to score 30 or more points against the Wizards. And then we need LeBron James to get a triple-double tonight against the Spurs. So going back to that first leg, RJ Barrett. Now, he normally averages 23 points per game during the season, but they're playing at home today. And at home games, his average goes up to 27 points per game. Then you take a look at how he plays against the Golden State Warriors in 2 games against them last year after he got traded to the Raptors and was a member of the Toronto Raptors. He averaged 30 points per game in 2 matchups against the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are going to be missing Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Pajemski, possibly Gary Payton II. And then just don't discredit the fact that, this is a NBA Finals, rematch from years ago. This is a really important game to that Toronto fan base. Look for RJ Barrett to have a big game today. That is why you should bet for him to get 25 or more. Jalen Brunson, 30-plus points tonight. He has scored 30 or more points in both games against the Pistons this year. He had 44 points against the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday on 61.5% field goal shooting. So he's just shooting the ball really well right now. Detroit's been a really good matchup for him all season long. Look for him to get another 30-point game. Then you've got Anthony Edwards scoring 30 or more points. Biggest thing here to keep in mind is he is playing the Washington Wizards. They are the worst defensive team in the NBA. So anytime you see the Washington Wizards playing, look at the team that they're playing against and pick someone to score. It's generally a good wager to make. Now, looking at Ant-Man in general, he has scored 30 or more points in 3 out of his last 5 games. Going back to his games against the Wizards last season, he scored 51 and 38 points against them. The last time Anthony Edwards did not score at least 30 points against the Washington Wizards was all the way back in November of 2022 when he scored just 29 points. And then to round that out, LeBron James to get a triple-double. In the 2 games he has played against the San Antonio Spurs this season, he has got a triple-double in both of them. In his last 2 games, he has had very near triple-doubles where he's literally missing it by 1 or 2 assists. And then also keep in mind, he hasn't played in a game since last Tuesday because the Lakers' last couple of games have been postponed due to those fires. So he's coming into this one pretty well rested. He's already been on record saying he's trying to bring some hope back to the city. Look for the Lakers to have a big game tonight, national TV spot on NBA TV. LeBron should be good for a triple-double. That is the long shot parlay of the day. If you go ahead and lock that in now on FanDuel, you can still get a 135-1 payout. When I posted it this morning, it was paying closer to 150-1. So, the odds are going down because people are betting on these things. So that's why you got to get these bets in early. Keon, that's all I got.
And that'll do it for us. Again, make sure you check out the Beat the Book website on the 1580thefanatic.com website. You can go down and find the link there, and you'll get all the picks for today. And Dylan making some changes to how that works, trying to get a little bit more transparency on the page, kind of showing you not just the picks for the day before, but the record for the entire week as we get this thing rolling into the new year. Daily Blender coming up next. We'll see you tomorrow.
I'm Chris Rose with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. Josh Allen threw 2 scores as the Bills beat the Broncos 31-7. Bo Nix and the Broncos raced out to a 7-zip lead, but Buffalo scored the final